columnist Pat Buchanan. So, Pat, you've said recently in your column that the GOP raised the white flag of surrender on immigration and lost middle America. Tell us what you were talking about.
Well, I think this goes back a long way to the time that I ran in 1991-92, when there were 3 million illegals in the country, and they were coming in at a rate of 5,000 a weekend in San Diego. And I said, you know, the Republican Party better get control of the borders here when George H.W. Bush was president, or we're going to lose the country. And I think that, in fact, is happening. The demographic change has really destroyed the Nixon-Reagan new majority.
And so where does this leave the party right now? Because this is certainly a topic of debate within the party itself, and we've heard from folks like yourself talking about the Republican Party raising the white flag. But I want to read some quotes here from a recent piece that George Will wrote, a recent op-ed that he wrote. Quote, "Many Republicans see immigrants only future Democratic votes. This descent into Democratic-style identity politics is unworthy of Republicans and unrealistic." So for the folks out there who are viewing this as a push solely by Democrats, a cynical one, to just get these votes, what do you think about what George Will says right here?
Well, I think George is mistaken in this sense. I mean, the immigrant folks and let's take the Hispanic Americans, the largest minority in America, as minorities are considered folks of color, 17% of the population. They voted over 70% Democratic, and 2 out of 3 believe in, if they have a choice, they believe in more government programs rather than smaller government. They, quite frankly, are philosophically attuned to the Democratic Party. The ones who are coming in legal and illegal now are very, very poor. Therefore, they are by and large beneficiaries of a welfare state. Now, why should these Hispanic folks, once they get the vote for a party which is going to cut taxes they don't pay, but take away benefits they do receive?
Now, that runs against some arguments you hear from a lot of Republicans in states like New Mexico, Susana Martinez, or in Texas, or even in Florida, where we hear that a lot of these folks that come to this country, they come here just to work. They're not coming here to vote.
Well, there's no doubt they're coming here to work. I mean, they work very hard. There's no doubt about it. I mean, everywhere you go, you see jobs that used to be held by white Americans and African Americans are now held by Hispanics. They're very hard-working people. But all I'm saying is, politically, they identify with the Democratic Party. Politically, Asian Americans voted 70% or more for Obama. Hispanics over 70% for Obama, and African Americans 93 to 95% for Obama. As these populations increase, unless you want to, I mean, you're dreaming, the great Republican majority that was built up under Nixon and Reagan, where we carried 49 states twice, is going to disappear.
And so, Mr. Buchanan, a lot of folks would also say that this is an issue because there are 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country right now, that this, you know, if you do raise the red flag here, that majority you talk so much about could never be obtained again.
Therefore, we'll give them all amnesty and have another invasion.
But this does have to be tackled, though. There has to be a Republican solution here to this problem, does there not?
Well, the Republican solution to the problem is secure the border and punish businesses that hire illegal aliens, and don't reward folks with amnesty who have broken into the country. Enforce the laws of the United States. In 1953, Dwight Eisenhower had what was called, by a politically incorrect term, Operation Wetback, and they had 1 million illegals in Texas and along the border. He sent a United States general there, retired general down there, to deal with the problem. The problem with the Republican Party and the problem with the conservative movement is that it's in a state of moral paralysis. It cannot move. It cannot act. It cannot decide. And as things drift, the party is moving closer and closer to the falls, and it's now trying to work out some kind of compromise with the Democratic Party, which will drive it right to the wall after it makes its first surrender.
All right, let's move on and talk about the debt ceiling debate as well. We have a couple sound bites that we have prepared for you that we want to play real quickly. Here is Speaker John Boehner talking about the debt ceiling debate.
You won't negotiate. You won't deal with our long-term spending problems without us raising taxes. We won't even sit down and discuss these issues.
The fact that we are no longer going to see, I believe, anybody try to hold our government hostage and threaten the full faith and credit of the United States of America in order to contract policy concessions. The fact that we were able to pass a clean debt limit is just one example of why, when you guys are unified, you guys stick together, this country is better off.
Now, Mr. Buchanan, I think what you were talking about, that paralysis, may be highlighted by this particular issue, the debt ceiling that just was recently passed, just raised. How disappointed were you with the way that whole thing went down?
Well, I really wasn't with the debt ceiling after the budget battle, where I thought the party should fight. The debt ceiling was, look, it was a second charge of the Light Brigade, and the Republicans would have been slaughtered because, first and foremost, they would have lost the battle when the Democratic Senate refused to accept any kind of Republican amendment. Secondly, when the market started shaking and gyrating and the business community started howling and the media came down on the Republican Party with both feet, they would have caved and capitulated, and you would have had another surrender. And if you're going to lose a fight going in and you know it, pick a different terrain and a different battlefield.
But why wasn't Boehner and the GOP willing to take that risk that you just mentioned right there? Why did they seem to fold here so easily?
Because I think Boehner, look, you got a small pair and you're looking at three of a kind showing. You got to, at certain times, fold your cards and wait for a new deal and a new hand. And I do agree with the bypassing this particular debt ceiling fight, because I don't think they would have won it. And I think they knew they wouldn't win it going in. And you don't march up the hill only to know that you're going to turn around and march back down again, carrying a lot of casualties.
And so what do they need to do to get a better hand then, moving ahead?
They're going to have to get the Senate of the United States and the presidency of the United States. But the last time they did that, they launched $2 trillion wars and expanded the government as much as any president since Lyndon Johnson. Look, the Republican Party has been in a very bad way. And I think it lacks really the self-confidence, the belief in its views and values. But if it doesn't start taking a stand soon, the tides of history are not with the GOP.
All right, thank you very much, Pat Buchanan. Good to have you with us here. We'll have much more on America's Forum when we come right back after this.